Kiki Iriafen and Talia von Oelhoffen have officially committed to USC. The Kiki announcement came a few days ago, but I wanted to wait a little bit because I had a strong feeling Talia was going to commit as well. Between her doing TikToks with Kiki and none of the other schools in her top 4 being in the West Coast, and the fact she was already following Lindsey Gottlieb, there was no way it wasn't going to be USC. And it was the same thing with Kiki. She's from Los Angeles and used to play against Juju in high school. There's no way she was going to pass up on the opportunity to potentially help her win a championship. To say this is groundbreaking is an understatement. USC was going to be a very good team, but they weren't going to be a legitimate contender for the simple fact they would be way too young. You can't have a starting lineup with 3 freshmen and 1 sophomore and expect to win the national championship. The freshies were super dominant in their first year at South Carolina, but Dawn made sure to have some veterans too. Lindsey Gottlieb made sure to do that for Juju last year, and she's making sure to do that for this year's freshmen as well. This takes USC from a team from the outside looking in to a real contender. Anyone who has been watching my channel for a while knows I've always been very high on Kiki Iriafen. I've been on record saying she's a top 10 player, and she easily will be next year too. I've complained multiple times that she doesn't get the recognition she deserves, but that all changed during the Iowa State game when Cameron Brink fouled out and Kiki had to save the team. She still gets to play her true position, which is power forward. That wouldn't have been the case for many teams that she potentially could have played for. I plan on doing transfer portal rankings next month, but I can already tell you that Iriafen will be number 1 on the list. She's one of the most talented players in college basketball. Talia von Oelhoffen is a very good point guard. Her defense leaves more to be desired, but she has a high basketball IQ, is great at closing games, and most importantly, she knows how to pass the ball. But the talent they have is not the reason Kiki and Talia make USC a title contender. It's like when Pow Pow joined South Carolina. Talia and Iriafen are exactly what USC needed. Their post-player offense was severely lacking last year, and it was going to be the same issue this year. Raya Marshall is an elite defender, but very limited offensively. This was also the case with Caitlin Davis. With Kiki being there, teams will actually have to play defense in the paint. They can't just double whoever is driving to the basket anymore. TVO is just as important as Kiki Iriafen. USC's only point guard next year was going to be Kaylee Heckel, a freshman that would have had no veteran point guard to help mentor her or make the transition from high school to college easier. Maybe they would have been fine, but not likely. But now Heckel will have someone to learn from and be able to develop naturally instead of having the pressure of leading the offense of one of the best teams in the country. I'll do a more in-depth team breakdown on USC later, but I think they are handily the second best team in the country. This is subject to change because the teams aren't finalized, but right now I think the big 4 are South Carolina, USC, Texas, and UConn. I don't care who joins what team. I'm not saying any team is better than South Carolina until someone beats them, but outside of them, USC is the most complete team. With the addition of their 2 transfers, they don't have a gaping hole in their starting lineup, and they have a deep bench with their new freshmen coming in. Kiki and Juju will easily be the best duo in the country, and USC has role players to help complement them. A big part of Juju's inefficiency was that she would get constantly doubled, but now they can't do that anymore. But why do I like USC over other teams? It's because I have questions about Layla Felia's role for Texas. If she's willing to sacrifice, Texas will be near unstoppable. But I have questions if she'll be able to get out of the high-volume shoot-first playstyle she had at Michigan the last 2 years. But to be fair, you could argue the same thing with Kennedy Smith on USC. UConn is very talented, but is relying on an inexperienced frontcourt. Jana El-Alfi and Sarah Strong have extremely high ceilings, but it's anybody's guess how good they will be year 1. If they are able to play at a high level, then UConn will dominate. But if not, they could have some trouble. UConn getting Reagan Beers would have fixed this issue, but she went to Oklahoma. Shout out to all the people that predicted that, because I got it wrong. There's a lot hype around Notre Dame, but I'm not calling them a title contender until they add some post players from the transfer portal. Having a team with only 2 post players, one of them being a freshman, is all but guaranteed to cause problems. If Kate Koval gets hurt or isn't great year 1, the season is over, because there's literally no one that can step in and play her position. And I'm saying this as a Notre Dame fan. But that's enough about other teams. Even though USC is really good, I don't buy in the idea that they are trying to form a super team. If they did something like get Talia Scott and Lucy Olson from the portal, I would be like, yeah, they are forcing a super team, because they would be putting players on the team because they had shiny stats and not because it fits a specific team need. But USC badly needed Talia's and Kiki's skill set. They didn't have a veteran point guard, and they didn't have a post player that could consistently score. Yes, USC brought it a strong recruiting class, but a lot of teams do that. Their recruiting class is ranked number 1, but that's very subjective. It's very possible South Carolina, Duke, or UConn end up having the best 2024 recruiting class when it's all said and done. The same people getting mad at USC for doing this. If USC did nothing, they would have been like, oh man, Juju needs to transfer. She wasting her talent on a team that won't get her better players. And while she's a great player, Talia von Oelhoffen wouldn't even start for South Carolina, UConn, Notre Dame, or even Texas. So I don't think this gives USC an unfair talent advantage. That being said, I think this year will be Juju's best chance of winning a championship. Juju's so great they will be a title contending team her junior and senior year as well, but there's no guarantee she'll have a teammate as good as Kiki Iriafen again. Maybe she will, but we don't know what the future holds. And South Carolina is only going to get harder to beat as more time passes by. Their most talented players are their youngest players, so when they get more experience, they are going to be impossible to deal with. It will be very interesting to see what happens this year. It's a completely different USC team from last year, and they are going to a new conference, so we'll see what they can do. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.